So, Miss Brenda Bombard, fill us in on your thoughts.
I'd like to see the rules and the laws say every transformer ought to be covered. If we could get every transformer covered, we would save the lives of many, many animals, and that mostly is our howler monkeys. If we have to wait 3 to 4 years, we're in Costa Rica 6 years for any kind of regulatory zoning, whatever, we're not going to have those animals that need the protection anymore because they're going to be all gone.
How frequently are you getting electrocuted monkeys into the refuge these days?
We got one this morning.
Okay, thank you, Brenda.
We're live.
So, Kyle, what's your take on the new regulations?
I think it's coming along. I think they got the community talking, the community discussing the issues, and we're moving forward. I think it's phenomenal that the people are working hard to make this happen.
So you're happy that something's coming?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for everything you and your family have done for the wildlife refuge over the years.
Pleasure.
All right, see you. So, Spatial, what's your take on everything that's going on?
I think they made some pretty big improvements. Of course, the glaring one they didn't make is lot size, which erupted the audience in a lot of colorful discussion, and I think rightly warranted considering our wildlife. We've got a lot of wildlife at stake, not just the human life, so this was a good step forward. Any discussion is a good step forward.
All right. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. So we just came out of the meeting. What's your take on what's going on around here right now?
I think there's a lot of passion, and people's hearts and minds are in the right place. From us as new residents, it seems like there are a lot of good ideas, and we need to figure out ways to put them all together. Gina, you had great comments.
I think it's headed in the right direction. I think the reason we came here is because there's just so much wildlife, and I know that's changed in the last 10 years, and it's only going to go downhill. And I'm just concerned that while we wait for studies to take place now, by the time we have those results, we won't have this environment any longer. So I'm just afraid it's going to turn into Tamarindo unless we use history and the past to base decisions now. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, hey, thanks for coming to the meetings, and also thanks for getting involved. We need all new residents to do that to help the place stay special.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time.
We're live.
So, Olivia, what's your take on all the new proposals and regulations that we're talking about today at the meeting?
I support everything that's been said. I actually think that it's too little, in the sense that I think that the minimum lot size has been suppressed, and I think that's a big problem because in 3 years' time, this area might be overdeveloped, and the animals and all the environment will have suffered if we don't have minimum lot size.
I got you. Did you have any other major concerns as far as height restrictions or any of the other stuff that was mentioned, or is it lot size is your main focus?
I think they upped the height limit to 9 meters to the Viga Corona. I think that's good. I personally would have gone with something a little bit less high because then you still have the roof over it. But, I mean, that's a compromise I can live with. I think the biggest problem right now is lot size.
Well, thanks for coming to the meeting and getting involved.
My pleasure.
So, Andreas, what's your take on the new temporary building regulations that we just learned about?
I think they're necessary. It's something that we definitely have to implement. Otherwise, Nosara will turn on into a big chunk of concrete.
Do you think that the adjustments were too strong or were they off base in any way, or do you like them?
I'm kind of sad that they cannot implement the minimum size lot, because I think that's one of the worst things that can happen, that we get subdivided into little lots, and there's like a ghetto in the middle of the beach. So I'm kind of sad about that part.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for coming and bringing your opinion and speaking with us right now.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll see you on the podcast soon.
See you.
2, 1.
Vanessa, what is your take on the new adjusted regulations?
Well, personally, I'm not very happy. The two biggest concerns I have are that from the very first draft, these regulations do not fall in line with the environmental study that was put in place, specifically with regards to the percentage of land that's developed. But my biggest concern by far is the lack of a limitation on lot size, because that will have an extreme environmental impact in terms of connectivity of different habitat. So even if we are minimizing the percentage of land that gets developed, we're really not, we can't say we're doing conservation if we're not ensuring habitat connectivity.
Gotcha. Thanks for coming today and sharing your insight and talking to us right now.
Thank you.
1.
So, Nicole, what is your take on the meeting that we just left?
You know, my take on the meeting is this. we all came here for something. And that something is not anything we brought, it's just here. It's the environment, it's the monkeys, it's the ocean, it's just what Nosara is. And that's what brought us all here. And I'm saddened a bit that not everyone remembers why we all came here. And it saddens me a bit that not everyone is willing to do whatever it takes, even set aside their own ego, their own interests, their own whatever, in order to protect it and to preserve it. Not only for us, right, but for future generations. And I'm encouraged by what is happening as far as putting some things in place. And I'm simultaneously disappointed, maybe in just humanity right now. I mean, this is all over the world. Like, it's not just here where we have to be really concerned and do everything we can for Mother Earth. She is literally crying for us right now to do the right thing, to protect her, to protect the trees, to protect the animals.
Well, hey, I want to thank you for getting involved when you came here and then also speaking from your heart. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So I am interested to hear what your take is on the new regulations, or do you have any concerns, or what are your thoughts?
Okay. So my one concern is the roof overhang, and that, that length, I guess, being included in the overall footprint.
Oh, and the 50% usage that they announced?
Yeah, because that takes, most roof overhangs are, 3 to 6 feet, for sun.
What about the inclusion of the driveways as concrete and whatnot? Does that concern you as much?
No, I think that's okay, because most people use gravel or something like that. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I think that it's good that they're going to take more time to figure out certain things, such as the subdivisions, and they're going to take more time to do those studies. I'm also a bit concerned about the roof overhang, just because it does provide shade for the house, which means actually less electricity with less AC usage. So including that, I don't think is maybe the best way, but maybe if you put in the proper drainage, that can combat that in terms of the water being able to penetrate the ground, which is what they were saying was their reason for that. But beside that, I think the 50% is pretty good. The only thing I'd like to see them add in is kind of what they're going to do. This is really about the nature and protecting the jungle, and there's really nothing in there about what we're going to do about stopping people from cutting down trees at 2 a.m. or are we going to actually properly fine people? Should the fines be increased? Things like that that'll actually help protect the jungle. A lot of these are just kind of building restrictions, but there's nothing in there to really protect the wildlife as is.
I got you. So enforcement of even what's there now.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with that. I think that the lack of enforcement and the low fines for taking down trees is a problem, because people, I think it's a few $100s, and if you're building a $500,000 house, a few $100 doesn't make a difference. So I think that's really important, is keeping the trees intact and the jungle and all of the nature, the birds and the monkeys and everything. So
Gotcha. Well, hey, thanks for your feedback. Any other thoughts? No. Right on. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich.
So, Miss Jane, could you tell me what you think about the meeting we just came out of?
First of all, I really feel grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you, Rich, and to continue the conversation that you've been orchestrating for a while now about this issue, which really touches my heart in a way that no other issue in Nosara ever has. For me, I see the situation here as a microcosm of I get so emotional a little bit, my voice goes, as a microcosmic picture of the macrocosm of the global situation with regard to climate and preserving diversity. So I think we can really flip it here in Nosara. I think, as someone mentioned in this wonderful meeting, that we are a community that is known for being sort of magical in the way that we come together and work together and create common good. So that is my hope and prayer for what happens. I think that the takeaway line and I support absolutely everything that's going on and more with regard to this meeting, just as a baseline. And the wonderful woman Jasmine who said, "When did we become the assholes?" I think that's the takeaway line, is that when did the people who are trying to protect the environment here become the enemy?
So full favor of the new temporary building regulations. Are you cool with the adjustments that they made, or are you disappointed that they adjusted them?
No, I am afraid. I feel fear.
In what regard?
The capacity to litigate results, which is another example of how the world works, and I don't want it to work that way here. I don't want people who have connections and money to litigate our process and stop it. So that's number one, that I think is a really big, huge issue. And the lot size thing is a joke. And
so just to clarify for anyone listening, they took away the minimum lot size restriction.
Thank you. Yeah, they like nada. Now there is no minimum lot size restriction whatsoever. And what I learned here today, which I thought was really interesting, is there, among other things, there's no mention of what you can do with the other 50% of the land. So you can still cut down the corridor. You can still cut down all your trees. You know, like, what is that about? And then the fabulous woman who is the biologist, what she
Vanessa.
said, what Vanessa said, and brought into the conversation around understanding more of the habitat and how we can work together, and neighbors can work together, and developers can work together, and, you know, people in the real estate sector can work together and educate people who are buying and selling that this is our number one priority.
Well, thank you for coming to the meeting, getting involved, and also speaking from your heart with us and talking to us today.
Thank you, as always. Okay.
That's great.